Clocks at 6 p.m. They're ready. Is that what, so we can get going?
Yep.
Ready.
What's up, Nate?
Okay, we are recording there. Do I need to record on the?
I can do it here. I was right outside. I just got my truck done.
You?
Recording in progress.
Everything's going. All you have to do is hit record on
We are recording. We're operating. It is 6 p.m., September 14th, 2021. I bring the Board of Directors of the Colorado City Metropolitan District to order for a study session.
Okay, first item on the agenda for study is enterprise for campground status. I had a long conversation with Sam. Was last week. He is able to do the golf course and get it for last year, but he did not have the time to pull the capital and stuff, since it is so intertwined with Parks and Rec, that to pull it out, get the audit done, and get it in on time. So he had a real concern with that. He said the golf course is easy because the last 2 years we have not used any revenue. He says, and the only thing that we've done on our budget, it's basically a enterprise. It's just that we have that line in general fund above the golf course. So he says we are all good there. It will affect us that updating a budget. He says the 2020 budget, we should have had an amendment earlier on in the year with it. If we knew we were going for an enterprise status, he says, but 90% of the time it is after he gets through with the audit, he'll put it in there that budget was not revised, and it will go to the state. State will come back and write us a letter, and have to write a letter stating why we didn't do it at that time. So he says there is no penalties or anything for it. It's one of those situations that with now that they changed the rule that you can take an enterprise from year to year in and out, they don't really care. Yes. So that was part of that. But as for the campground, we couldn't. It would save us with the enterprise about $125,000 to $130,000 on tax deal. So that still leaves us with about $140,000. Yeah.
So I have a question, George.
Yes.
I guess what's the audit have to do with the campground going in or out of enterprise? Is it just for time, right?
Yeah, he said he has to go back to like 2018 to get the capital and stuff that belongs to the campground alone and pull that forward to 2019, 2020 to get the right numbers for 2020. He said, well, and he says to try and pull them numbers and pull that all in, he says it's going to take me about 3 weeks to get all of that together.
How does that affect an amendment?
The amendment is just that we can't make it an enterprise before 2020.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say on that. We can make it before. He doesn't want to, is what it sounds like it is. We've discussed this for 2 years. We got the documentation. It's all on the computer. He's welcome to have access. I'm sure Jovan would walk him through it or just pull it for him, because our computer has all the numbers in it at this point. I don't think there's anything left out of the system, that it simply print out the reports and hand them to him. So this taking 2 or 3 weeks, is he can't get around to it to 2 or 3 weeks maybe, but for us to pull the stuff is a matter of an hour or so.
Well, for us to pull it, but him to figure out how to break it out in and out of what is.
It's already broke out.
not all of it, because you have different fees and stuff that we do pull, that is part of Parks and Rec, that is not part of the campground or
Which
the
fee would
pavilion.
that be?
Well, you have all your fees for swimming pool and all of that, which, yeah,
Okay.
they kind of broke out, but still, it's kind of all in that one pot.
But we still keep a separate ledger for the income and the outgo on the campgrounds.
Okay.
So it's not difficult to just print that column. It's a spreadsheet. I'm sure Jovan can print whichever column he wants at the time. If he wants to argue that he doesn't have time, maybe, he doesn't, really care to do it, we should look for another auditor. But the lawyer's already said that you can backdate to 2020. Because if you can do the golf course, you can do the, campgrounds. We ran them both with the intent of making money. I yield.
Go ahead.
I think the whole thing would be mute if we just pushed for our D-Tabor thing. And I think, Yvonne has a lot on her plate right now. I mean, a lot more things than picking up this stuff right here. And I think we have a lot more on our plate because of personnel that we have presently. If we can just move forward with that thing, as long as things are in place, the final numbers, I think, it's not gonna hold up moving forward. But I think, we just need to really push the issue of detabering, and then it won't be an issue, I feel.
So Jim, part of what he's saying is that he struggles with being able to accomplish that in time for the deadline
Yes.
of the audit.
Yes,
So we said.
which, with the golf course, it took him, and they could have the audit done this week, that's what they were expecting to do. But since we changed it, now we're looking at next week and a possible special meeting to give you guys the audit so you can review it and adopt it, or I can give you guys the audit and then you can look at it and we can adopt it on the last meeting of the month.
And he can
It
have
all
that done,
depends.
considering taking the golf course into Enterprise, you can still have that done in time.
Yeah, you can have that done. Like I said, if you look at our financials, you have them there under your green section. You know, if you look at the top of everything, we do not have just campground as a deal where we have golf course pro shop and we have golf course maintenance, which is there. It's already individualized, whereas with Parks and Rec, you have Parks and Rec, which is the rec center, the campground, all of it kind of all tied together, and that's where the concern is.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak. Let me remind the board that this auditor is the one that delayed and put us in this position outside of our wanting to do something else. He's the one that wanted a deadline that was pushing the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
We had to have a resolution to accept him not getting it done on time, and now he's struggling to get it done on time after the resolution. So there again is another issue with, should we start looking for somebody that's going to get it done on time?
And they've done it for the last 5 years, so it is time to change and look for different auditors too. So that's one of the things that's on our agenda too, is to give some pricing and stuff for a different auditor for the upcoming year.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, in your packet, you have resolution 11/2021, enterprising, for the golf course. That we went through, like I said, there is no issue with it as, doing it for the year 2020. So, that's where we're at with that. I did still have the public hearing on it, even though we don't need a public hearing for it. Carolyn said you don't need one, but I still have to do it that way if we already had it. for 30 days, and it's out there.
Thank you.
Okay? The next, we have asphalt repair for water, sewer, roads repair. We went out to, what was it, 3, 4 different vendors.
Yeah, Fremont, Martin Marietta, Davis was one of the only ones that got back to us.
I know talking to Martin Marietta, it was too small of a job for them. They've got too many construction jobs. I talked to them. And the other one, we even tried Hanson, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And Hanson said he's too busy, he couldn't do it.
Mr.
So,
Chairman, I'd like to speak on this matter. Take 1 second.
Go ahead, Jim.
so what it came up with is with the all the repairs that we've had from Lim, North Parkway, Isabella, Applewood, Gulfstream, Turk Paradise, Lake Beckwith, Olympus, and Monte Vista, that it came out to be a total of $11,745.24 to do all the repairs.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no problem with the estimate. I have a problem with the accounting on this. I looked at one of your sheets, I can't remember. There again, I was on my phone scrolling through all of the documents. And I noticed that it was broken out, you just mentioned, water, wastewater, and roads.
Mm-hmm.
First off, we have 0 roads that are paved. So you can scratch roads
Okay,
from the
well.
list. Then, on top of that, we need to know each break, whether it was wastewater or water, because those are the departments that pay for their repairs, not combined across. So if it was a sewer line repair, they pay for that repair. If it's a water break, they pay for that cut.
Which 90% of these are water breaks.
And that's fine. I'm not
And you have
questioning
one of
that.
them that Monte Vista, the biggest one, that was also water and sewer at the same time.
Right.
'Cause we
Well,
had to
all
do
I'm
that.
saying is accounting wise,
Yeah.
sewer does not pay for water's cuts, and water does not pay for sewer cuts, and then roads don't pay for anything, because we don't have any paved roads to take care of.
Okay, well, that's,
But it.
I just put it down that way, as, let you guys make the decision as to where you want it, have it all come out of. You know, I
Well,
know,
it can only come out, one, those are enterprises.
yeah,
They can only come from that enterprise. So, I don't have a choice in the matter. I discussed this a couple of years ago with, Yovan, when I noticed a road repair, and it was listed as road repair. I said, how are you gonna do a road repair? You don't have a road with pavement. So it comes back to which department caused the issue.
mhm.
I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else? From what Bob says, is I think that's correct. If it,
I agree with you. Like I said, it was one of those deals that I look at it,
okay,
you know, it's a line item that, I know it's a road, it might be county road, but we have to repair that road after digging through it.
so now the fact that we don't have any paved roads, all these are county roads that need to be repaired.
Correct.
Yeah.
We have to take care of the county roads, we dug it up.
Right.
But only that department does.
Correct. All right. Anybody else? All right, Jim.
Okay, next thing I have is flood insurance, claim for the plat. I'm just starting to get numbers, well, I've been getting numbers together as to what we can claim, and talking to our claim adjuster through, our insurance. She says we do have flood insurance. It would cover filters, cover, our head gate, it would cover, the ditch if we had some issues with the ditch, whatever would be part of that flood. the only thing is looking at it, and that's why I put it in there, was it's a $50,000 deductible for the, coverage of it. Right now, we have, if we went with the head gate, new strainers in the plant, membrane filters, it would come up to $149,000. So, in a sense, you're getting all of this done, you're getting twice your money back. But the thing about it is we have to order it and have it here and replaced for it. So that's one of the things I'm looking at. We're still pulling in different things as it comes up within the claim. So there might be even more that would be added into this. Like I said, I haven't looked at Hickling Ditch, but I know there's some areas in Hickling Ditch that it might have washed out the seams, and we might need to have some sections replaced in there from the water. Because I know when we did have the flood, it flooded up over the ditch and it was into the field there a little bit, and I just haven't been out to get some estimates on that. So this is something that's going to be coming up in the future as to where we want to go with it. I just figured that I'd give you some of the stuff as it goes along so that you guys are informed about it, and it's not going to be, oh, well, we didn't know anything about it. And that's how we're working it. Because right now we have three claims with it, with what happened with the water situation back in July. The first part was the lightning strike with our pumps and communications from our booster station. That lightning hit it. We've got that, which they'll cover it. I think it's a $500 deductible, and that will cover all of the technical stuff that we've had to do and replace. And we're looking at probably a pump there that we need to pull and have it redone from the lightning strike. Also, what else was there? The antennas, since they burned out the antenna on the pumping station. So there's, and then all the reprogramming and stuff like that, which we're keeping that separate. The next one would be the flood situation, would be a claim. And then the third was our loss for manpower to keep the place running for the week, our water, loss of revenue. We could claim all of that within, and we're trying to get them numbers together too, as to on that side of that claim. So there's 3 or 4, well, and actually we have one more. If there was something damaged of somebody's person, which we had line blow up in some lady's house, her insurance covered it, but ours will cover her deductible.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak.
Go ahead.
I apologize to the board for the call, but it's a weed season. First off, are you trying to aggregate these claims? You got a $50,000 deductible.
Mm-hmm.
Each claim carries $50,000 unless you're aggregating it. Or you've got specific language within the policy.
It's specific language within the policy. As for flood, it's its own. Whereas for loss of revenue and our loss as a district, that is under our umbrella of liability.
And what is the deductible on that?
$500.
Per claim?
No. For the whole claim.
For a claim,
Yeah.
or for
For
the year,
For
or a
the
month?
claim, which our claim.
But you
could include
listed
that.
4 different claims, what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you're aggregating these claims, they're separate claims will require separate deductibles.
Yes, but we're going to satisfy, because all we have to pay is 2 deductibles per year.
Okay,
And we already had one.
so you have an aggregation of 2.
So we're gonna have one more deductible of $500.
With all of this, how have you documented the proof of loss?
Proof of loss was on the days for overtime, that aspect, we have that. Plus then we go back to last year's, what our water sales was during the year, which I know we were on,
Okay, that's one
restriction.
event, we all know that event. These other ones you mentioned, flood, lightning strike,
We haven't
I
done,
understand you said there's lightning hit.
yeah.
How did you prove that lightning took that out?
After talking to our technician that did it, that's what he said there was two sources. It was either power surge or lightning strike, and he think it would be more of the lightning strike to take it out because it had fried the transponder.
So
Instead,
even he can't prove it's lightning.
he can't prove it's
Okay,
lightning.
so how are you going to move forward with a claim? Because we've got to have somebody working on our behalf
Yes,
to document and prove all of these spots. And generally, most insurance companies wants to see, hey, you're moving towards repair here, or you're in a holding pattern before they release any funds.
yeah. And that's it. And that's what I'm saying. We're trying to get all of our ducks in a row to get it there, and get all the documentation to it.
Have you spoken with the insurance company about the 4 different claims?
Yes, I have. Yes, we have. Even Mr. Ellis was with us when we did. And I haven't had a chance to get with Mr. Ellis. We've been talking email-wise, trying to set up a meeting. And with Yvonne being gone now this week and next week, it's going to have to wait until after that to get together again to review all of it.
Mr. Chairman, I yield.
You mentioned, you wanted to keep us informed, as far as time, kind of timing. What are you looking at as far as timing? When does this need to be done, when can it be done?
Well, that's one of the things that we're trying to pull all the data together, and I talked to the insurance claim adjuster, and she says, you know, this claim, once you filed it, it is open. And I said, well, the only thing is like our filters, you know, we had to backwash them and flush them and CIP them more than if they normally need to be done. And that's taken that longevity out of that filter. She says, well, you're better off replacing them and we will pay for them, whereas 3 or 4 years down the road, you're gonna have to come back and prove that by this event it happened.
So when do you plan on coming to us with this $100,000 bill for filters?
Hopefully by the first meeting of next month.
Okay.
That way we can review anything else these are just the main things that have came across my desk as big money item situations. Like I said, I know there's going to be part of the ditch that we're gonna probably have to have some re-cement and repair to it that get flooded and washed out underneath the sidewalk, and now that ditch is cracked and moving, so. Okay, next. Okay, I put in a letter from Carolyn on the election. I know Neil said that she wanted to talk about it, that's why it's in the book.
Okay, there's really not much discussion about it. Bob and I have talked about that, and according to Carolyn's letter, I think that in discussion that's pretty much on agreement that we can, as to issues that go to the public, each one of us individually has the right and the ability to speak to the public as an individual. One of the discussions I had with Bob, the questions, and I think the question that we referred to Carolyn was, can we as board members speak as a board member? And yes, we can. We cannot speak for the board, but we can identify ourselves as a board member and take an opinion. and speak our opinion. We cannot speak for the board. As long as we make it clear that we are not speaking for the board, we can voice our opinion. And that's really basically what that discussion with Carol was about. I think it clears things up pretty close.
And I think when she wrote that letter,
Right.
read that, my impression was wrong, and when she read it, I understand it, and I agree.
And Bob and I beat each other up pretty good on that. We come to agreement.
Okay.
It was very simple when we had stuff in front of us to
Yes,
look at.
yes, we
Okay, next, I know, well, and I forgot to add it, but ATVs, I know Greg was the one that wanted to brought up. I know he isn't here tonight. I know you want me to put it off to the next study session when he's here
for the ATV
on roads, which,
I'd like to hear it, and he can check the recording and information can be sent, Mr. Chairman. This is just a discussion.
Right, I think that as I remember when we discussed that, it still goes back to, we have to check the county.
county is the one that's going to, especially when probably 80% or 90% of our roads are county roads. The one that's patrolling is your sheriff's department, which is another county official. You know, and I don't know whether by even putting it, allowing them on our roads, is that going to create stress into our green belts then too, and all of that, because it's gonna expand it more.
So I don't think we're prepared, we don't have enough information yet to actually have this be a.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I will say right now, I like the idea, but I'm totally against it because of current state laws. Colorado does not allow you to run these vehicles on a public road, which is what we have. Any road that's maintained is public. Now, we have some unmaintained roads that could be considered trails, but because they're not maintained, they could be there. The problem that's happening is a lot of people are just using them to run errands. To give you a good example, yesterday, two, I want to say teenagers, I'm not even sure some of them were in the teens, two of them showed up at my shop in a 4x, no plates, no license, no nothing. I'm not going to tell them no because they're picking up and paying me, but their mama or daddy is the one that allows them on the roads, not me. And it's becoming an issue, and the state has already addressed it, that they're just not going to allow these type of vehicles off or on a maintained road. Now, I've seen just driving around Colorado City in my pickup deliveries, golf carts the same way, up on the county roads, and it's not allowed. Now, if it's on them, they get called, it's on them, not me. But if we open it and say, and this is just a position I'm going to take, because I understand it fairly well, if we say, okay, you can use them on our roads. Now, you would have to specify on that road list the ones we maintain. Now, that will not jive with Colorado state law. That would be in conflict with the state law. Now, if you said only on our unimproved roads, it goes back to Jim's concern of, are they going to stay on the road, or are they going to start cutting across the greenbelt?
Which,
Mr. Chairman, I yield.
which you do have some of that problem in. I know I've watched from my house, sitting on the deck back there and watching four-wheelers, and I don't know whether they're on the golf course or not. And I know Mark has ran across some that have driven across greens on them and stuff, which I usually call the sheriff's department right away and say, hey, I got somebody out on the golf course out there in a four-wheeler, can you guys check it out? And they'll do it. So it might take them a while, and sometimes they can't find them, but you know, I think we've caught quite a few of them too, so that can stop it.
It happens, it's just not frequent.
Well, if I may respond right quickly. Last weekend, you had 2 of them running around in the park. So, there was a party or something going on and you got 2 ATVs running around. So it's happening more than you think.
And they're, you can get them licensed to go on trails in the mountains.
Only on state, not on state, on, federal.
Yeah.
So, where do we take this?
I would drop it
Yeah,
myself.
Okay.
I would say no action, because who's gonna enforce it, and it's not enforced now, and they're in violation right now. So I won't even touch it. I let them go to the county. If the county approves it, then we address
We're
it.
under the county then.
Yeah.
Is that the position of the board?
Well, Mr. Chairman, we can't make that decision in this, section of the meeting, so I would absolutely ask.
I think right.
And it wasn't put on there, like you said, it was one of those afterthoughts after
But
you've done everything and I went, oh,
to
shit.
and take a position.
No, I guess maybe my question is that kind of, as a consensus of the board, is this something we don't wanna mess with? If not, let's just drop it.
I personally don't wanna see it.
All right,
Okay.
all right, it's dropped.
Okay, the CCAAC committee, I know Neil and Harry have been involved with that, so I'm turning it over to them.
I had a meeting the other day, and, last board meeting, we had, a packet that we withdrew because when Mr. Elliott went out and checked it, it hadn't been marked. And so the other day I went out and checked it, and, it's in Applewood, right next, the one right now is right next to the sewer plant. There's 2 vehicles, they're right there, and the one right next to it, it's the one in your packet. And, the gentleman, when I went to look at it, it wasn't marked again, that was in the address. But the lot was the wrong lot, and so I called him up, the builder, and he said, I have 2 lots there, one on the left-hand side and one on the right-hand side. And this one was the right-hand side, lot number 5. And, so I looked at it, did the measuring, and, it meets all the criteria. And that's only one, and,
You also do have Randy, he's working on revamping the forms as to make them easier for you guys and everybody. He has the complaint form that he's updating and going through it. He redid the application to make sure that we had, whether it's what the zoning is on it. So there is a bunch of things that are being changed within making it easier, I guess.
and well, the thing is, the zoning part, it has to be, the county has to do certain things first. So that people have to go to the county to see where the zoning is and get that cleared away. And then it comes to us. And, but there's, Bob Smith wasn't around last week, neither was, Rick, and it was just, Randy and I. So that's what we're dealing with.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Because we were unable to get together, and speak about some of the things, I also, sat down with the computer file. I should say files, because it's in 2 separate files. And I could not find a way to combine the 2 files by, merge. So I manually merged the 2 files. Now, because of the flow of the chart being so much different between the complaint side and the requirements separately, and the bill side stopping so much earlier, what I did, and this is just, it's a file that exists. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But if you were to use the file now, instead of the other file having, I think it was 4 tabs on one sheet, and the other one having only one sheet, after manually merging the two, I have 2 sheets and no tabs. So that it's strictly, you can click on which sheet you want, and all the information is in those sheets. Now, because I'm creating something that's not authorized and not ready for use, I did take the liberty to insert columns and move columns, because the flow was just almost unreadable at times. So, you know, I've got all the pieces of the address next to each other instead of hunting columns with a piece of the address. And I put the property address and the owner's address closely so that you can see the flow there. And then where we have letters sent and stuff like that, you needed a few extra columns for responses and whether or not they had been checked. And after looking at the file, basically nothing's been followed up on. And there's basically some follow-up columns for each section of first letter, second letter, lawyer, court, because if you take it all the way to the end, you're gonna wind up with a column just for the court. So I inserted those as you flow across. At this point, I haven't tried to print it because I just don't know how it's going. You may have to put 6 sheets out there to get all 27 columns in. But it's just a work in progress to let you know that because it was so hard to dig through, and I noticed nothing new on it, so I don't know how we got new stuff, because I called before I started working on it because I didn't want to start inserting things. And now we hear that we've got something to be inserted that I don't think I saw on the original document. And that's the problem we're going to have when you walk in front of the judge. We can lay that sheet down and it says when you did what, when you checked what. And that covers us. So we should not look at anything until it's on one of the pages. Thank you.
Okay. Harry, you're not gonna be here next week.
No.
Or this coming
This
Thursday.
coming Thursday, and we had nothing on the,
And I will not be here.
There's
Would you
nothing.
be, Bob, do you have time to come in on Thursday?
At this point, I would say probably, so I'll have to
Would you
shut
have-
down shop, that's not an issue.
Would you have time to come in
I
and
don't think
share
I'm out
that?
of town at that, you're saying this coming Thursday.
Yeah, this
I
coming-
don't think I've got anything scheduled out of town, and I can make it a point not to schedule out.
Would you have time, would you be able to share that, what you worked on?
Yes.
With Randy? Or I hope Randy, one of them will be here, we can check with him and see, but would you be willing to
Yes.
come in and talk and
Now,
share that?
one quick caveat to this, because I don't pay for programming, and this was done in Excel, I can go back and crack the Excel code, but it was easier to merge everything into open software. So I used LibreOffice, which works on any computer.
Well, basically though, as far as if you would share what you worked out
Yeah.
with them and see.
because Randy has something, we
Yeah.
worked on it, and we're
Worked
trying to get
together.
everything concise, and it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that way you have something to compare with each
Yeah,
other.
yeah, I think that would.
See what would work best for.
Absolutely helpful. Jim, have we been successful at getting you out of the CCAAC?
Yes, but you still have people that come in that, hey, I need a bill. And, you know, so Christie will get their application and usually go through everything, but then a lot of times they might not have a plot plan or this, or they'll come in for a question, well, what I need, I want to put up a fence. So I give them directions as to what they need as a plot plan, application, fee for it, whatever. And so, yeah, I'm out of it, which is great.
Are we recapturing some of your time?
Yes, I am catching
The
a
more
lot
we
of
can do
things
that, the
up.
better off, so.
and the files now on that, going back to Kelly's office, it's on that file right there, it's where everything is, and you just pull them out, it's right there.
Okay.
You know, and as a complaint, if a complaint comes in, You know, if I answer the phone and the complaint comes in, I can write up a complaint and I'll send it to the CCAC and let them review it and they'll do it.
Well, now, when you write up the complaint, it goes to Christie and she logs.
Yeah, it will be that way.
Mr. Chairman, one quick point there is what I heard, of course I don't like it, but that Bob, is that Miss Christie is going to review, see if all their stuff is there. That's really not what she does, she accepts. If it's incomplete, when it gets to the Harry or Terry or Bob, we look at it and say, oh, you're missing this, we send it back.
We have two right now, that have to be sent back.
That's what I'm saying, but it's all her, she should not review.
Just put them in
to
the
see.
file.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
put
And
them in
that's-
the
I
file.
don't review anything.
Okay.
You know,
I don't.
but if she has a question that
And
they
that's
said,
fine. The question
like
is-
that, they'll come to her and say, hey, do you think I have everything that I need here? So then she'll bring it back to me and I'll review it and say, okay.
Christie, are we overloading you with that?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. That's it for the study session. I close the study session and open the regular board of directors meeting. Join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you join the moment of silent reflection, if you so choose. Thank you. Let the record show that we have 4 board members present. Mr. Collins is excused, so we have a quorum. And we need to have a public hearing.
So you want to close our open meeting
So
to a public hearing?
close the open meeting and go to public hearing.
This public hearing is for Holly Golf Course to make it an enterprise for the year 2020 and future.
Mr. Chairman, I think we've all read this document, and if there's no objections from the floor, I would ask that we move back into the meeting.
Is there any input from the public?
I feel it's a mistake, but that's me. You can't judge on what happened for 2 years, you need to take a deeper look.
Gary, if you would, speak up, I can't read.
I just think it's a mistake putting it into enterprise. I feel that, just because it had one good year, you guys jump on it and it needs to be looked at more in depth. It is.
One of the things that Sam brought into the situation last week, which I always thought it was 3 years, that it had to, and he said, no, it can go from year to year. You can be an enterprise this year, next year you have to give 15% to help support it. You take it out of enterprise status for that year, but the following year you can turn around and put it in enterprise. Within the last 2 years, we have been in on the positive side of it. If it goes into enterprise, we will be saving our fees that we do charge will be coming back to us as an enterprise status, whereas if we don't, we're going to have to give it back in revenue taxes. So it's kind of this, I could see that with the changes in the law, I think it's a win-win for both sides.
Yeah, it just with this board, I don't think it'll reverse. That's all.
Any other comments?
Just on the maintenance end of it, whether we're, since I've been here, whether we're enterprise or we sit under the umbrella of the Metro District, as far as maintenance, we treat it as a business. That's our product, and that's what we're going to put out for our players and our homeowners in the community. And moving forward with the enterprise, all I ask is that you continue to keep giving us the tools and the resources to be successful, so that we can just keep moving forward. And what I'm talking about is, equipment. It's tough keeping all that old stuff going.
My only comment is the enterprise right now would be the safety measure if the Tabor does not pass. If the Tabor passes, then it's a new issue.
Close the public hearing, move back to public hearing, move back to the general meeting. Approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that motion. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the workshop and the regular board meeting as presented.
Public hearings also.
Public hearings, yes, and public hearings.
What is second that? Moved and second, all in favor, say aye. Mr. Chairman. Or did you want to discuss?
I just want to make sure that, our statements are still included, to review to the recordings. I didn't see it right off the top of my head, I just wanted a moment.
No, it isn't there, but we can add it.
Mr. Chairman, I move to amend the motion to include our statement that the minutes are not verbatim and that everybody should refer to the recording. We have a standard statement that's supposed to be included on these.
Is that okay there?
Yep, that's all right.
Moved and seconded again? It is. Moved and seconded that the minutes be approved with the amendment provided by Mr. Cook. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Let's see, we have both study session and the regular meeting. That was for the study session. How about for the regular meeting and the public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes pending addition of the statement at the end.
Both the regular meeting
Both.
and the public hearing? Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Bills payable.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak just a moment on bills payable.
No, go ahead.
All I wanted to point out is the discussion that we had earlier. I've looked through this and I didn't see a concern at this point, but we need to make sure that when we do something like this road repair, that it is properly GL'd to the appropriate enterprise. I yield with that.
That's a good point. Okay, can we pay the bills?
I make a motion we approve the bills as presented.
Second.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Mr. Chairman?
You have discussion?
Yes.
Okay, discussion.
I will not vote against this, but I'd just like to make note that we are making some progress in shopping, but I still believe we need more shopping. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I yield.
Anybody else? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's pay the bills. Financial report.
Okay, financial report, I did move, since we tabled July's, you have July and August there. I also put in the standpipe, if you notice, and you look back at this, where a little high on it, which is .029. I know we had a couple of cases within the month that people swipe their card, fill up, shut it off, but never hit the button, so they've been charged more. So that's where I think we've got a little bit of flex in it. I know Aiden and them, they have calibrated it. It's one of those deals that we can recalibrate it again, but I believe that's where the overrun was more on the card side, because I've had about 3 or 4 people call and we reimbursed them for what they had. But there's that one that did it a second time and he didn't want to call back and say, hey, I did it again. So.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Go ahead.
Because I use it, I've noticed, I only use it every other month. But I noticed that it was charging approximately 25 cents more per load for me.
Was it?
Yes.
Okay.
So we do need to check this, and I think I brought it up
Yeah.
previous, because I had some people calling me saying, hey, it's eating extra in quarters as well.
Well, and we've done it, and it isn't one of those things that you can go out there and say, okay, I want to put per gallon here. You've
I
got to
understand that.
calibrate it just to the point where it gets it. So, you know, it could be just a
But
little
we
bit
have
of
a
turnaround.
posted rate
Yeah.
that we have to.
And we're trying to
stay
get it
with,
back
yes.
to where it's right at it.
So that's how you explain the double income in August?
No, it is not a double the income. We just had a lot of people buying water in August.
So
Because
we
it was
have twice as
hotter.
many people buy water in August as we did in the previous month.
Jim, what was the total?
The total for it in gallons was 207,156
Okay.
in August. And you had 207,500 in July.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
just to make a point on what you were talking about, when you have a dry area, there's so many people that access this that have wells that with any dryness, they can't use their well, so that's when they start hauling. And the rest is when it's wetter, they're getting enough out of their wells.
But the numbers don't make sense here. We have
I know.
smaller gallon usage in August than we do in July.
And you have more of an
Yet our
income.
income is twice as high in August for cash than it is in July.
No, it's only,
There's
oh
something,
yeah, shit, it is 1,000. I'm sorry.
there's something
Yeah,
screwy.
we'll have to relook at that.
I did not catch that.
Yeah. We'll have to relook at it and see what happened here. If you, your credit card,
You only have 150, or
your credit card is $500
Yeah, so
difference there.
It's higher too, but
Yeah,
so there's something goofy
Then your
with
quarter.
the cash income.
so we'll recalibrate it again.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
the gallon reading.
something's wrong with that cash income.
Well, maybe not the cash, but maybe it's the gallons used, maybe. Yeah.
If
It
you
doesn't
just go
look
by
right.
my 25 cents, and it takes me 4 loads to get to that 1,000, that's $1 off.
Yeah, that's something just.
That's just a rough figure.
Yeah. So we'll recalibrate
Okay,
it.
all right. Yeah, it could, something is, something wrong. All right, go ahead, Jim.
Okay, financials, any questions on them? I know Yvonne isn't here, but I'll try and answer what you need.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
Jim, the revenue between water a year ago and this year is down like $500,000. Do you know why that is? Last year we were at almost 1.4 million through the end of August, and now we're at 900,000. So that's $500,000 less revenue.
Yeah, with that, me and Yvonne have talked, and we have been selling less water.
That's significantly less.
Yeah, it is.
But what did when we were down for what, a week or 2 weeks, that really hurt us too.
Well, last year was a drought though too, this year
Yeah.
we've been blessed with rain,
Yeah.
so that makes a little difference in there.
And that's one of the areas we've had Neptune come in and with our meters, and he's supposed to be back here at the end of this month to help us realign to make sure that our programs are talking the right way. I know we've had some problems with them, but I really can't answer that, and that's where we've been looking at it to see. That's why we called Neptune in, that's why we have calls into Casell to make sure that when we do import and export, we're getting everybody and everybody's right numbers, because we've had within the last 6 months where some meters have went backwards instead of forwards. Don't know how.
Check valve.
Well, but even the check valve is good. What it is that it might have been a house that somebody was gone for the month and it just sat there. It might have leaked back through a fitting or whatever, and it ran the meter backwards, so it gave them a bill of 999,000, you know, in that 1 gallon. So
So to Terry's point there, as far as the differences in the revenue, same thing happens here. It's kind of, I think, that confusing to me as the standpipe. We have significantly lower water revenue, but we have increased sewer revenue.
And the
Why
thing
is that?
And the thing is, it's also you don't. Last year you had Dore, or what do you want to call it? That was in business. This year you don't. That they were processing him.
Well,
And they
so
use
how does
water,
that
so-
correlate with the sewer versus the water here?
Maybe they were drinking the toilet.
I guess, maybe that's it.
It does show that there's serious problems with the delivery and billing system.
Yeah, and that's why we're trying to work it out to see what is the major problem on it,
Okay.
and where we need to make the adjustment.
These don't look like good numbers.
Because on the sewer side, yeah, we're up 100,000 in it, whereas water you're down $500,000.
That doesn't make sense.
Alright. We'll sit down and calm that out.
Okay. Operational?
Operational report.
Alright, so, we've had a pretty busy couple of weeks here. I'd like to say that there were more successes than problems that we've faced, but that hasn't been the case for the last few weeks. I'll start with some of the issues. We started off having to service a lot of our equipment. We had to make repairs to our dump trailer, making repairs to the electrical system that connects to the brakes and the auxiliary lights. We've had to address a major oil leak that came from our dump truck. We were losing about 3 quarts of oil a day in the 8 hours that we were running it. That diagnosis came with, led to the repair of a few different issues. Had to replace a lot of oil lines, numerous gaskets and connections. In that process, we also diagnosed a faulty alternator. Next piece of equipment we ended up having to service was the road grader. We were having an overheating issue. So in that, it was about time to follow our regular maintenance schedule, so we did that as well. But we've also had multiple water and sewer taps the last couple of weeks. Next on the list was assisting our plant operators. They've been facing an issue of producing the normal amount of water. It's taken some time to diagnose some of those issues. We ended up spending the better part of the week tearing down and cleaning skids and cleaning strainers to help keep production up. But for the most part, that wraps up the last couple of weeks. As far as some of the successes go, I'd say we handled most of those issues pretty gracefully. I was also going to introduce Nate here, but he had to take off due to family issues. But he was the newest member of the crew. Has been a part of the successes the last couple of weeks. In that he has shown some great work ethic, and he's picking things up pretty darn quickly, which has been a great help to us. But say any other questions on some of the issues that we face in the water plant, I'd probably refer you to Gary here, but that'll pretty much wrap up what's been going on.
Anything else, yeah?
That'd be it.
Okay, go ahead.
You said you had a dump trailer repair. What's the age of that dump trailer?
That was brand new.
What happened?
We actually had one of the last crew members that departed us made a mistake and tore some of the electrical system out of the trailer. So we had to make repairs to that.
It was the pigtail left plugged in while he pulled away. So
It wasn't an accident then,
it was an accident probably on his fault, but he did pull it.
but it's just a pigtail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are you?
Okay, golf shop activity report. Phil said he was going to be here, but he couldn't make it. 2021 August rounds had $1,798. Month of August for memberships was 0. Total of year memberships is 37,560 compared to last year's, which was 36,020. 21 August revenue was $52,697. Last year was $71,695. Starting to show slowdown as everybody is back in school, plus heat this month has an effect on play tournaments continue into next month as well. Polydot maintenance side, rain, we had 1.5 inches recorded for August 8th through September 13th. Greens, moss control continued with Quicksilver. Back 9 applied 6 times, front 9 4 times, greens being airified the 20th and 21st of next week. They're going to put in 3/8 hole times, 2x2 spacing with a depth of 2 3/4 to 3 1/4 depth, and then filled with USGA spec sand, fertilizer applied, and soil amendments. Fairways, approaches, tees, fertilized 817 with 632, about 170 pounds of product per acre, equaling 0.2 pounds per 1,000 square foot. Parks and Rec operational report. Campground revenue is still up from previous year. August 2019, 6,124. August 2020 was 11,519 and 11 cents. And August this year came out 11,979.17. End of July year to date is 68,302 and 19 cents. We're 13,711 and 65 cents above last year at this time. Soccer season is underway. We will have around 70 participants, and we'll be working with the middle and high school coaches and players to help run the program. We are dealing with grinder pump that quit working at the park restrooms. The tank has been pumped, and we are working to get quotes to replace the pumps. Josh came in today and he said that both pumps, they tested them. They've been in there for 20 years? And the guy says, well, you got 10 years more than what they should last in the grinder pumps. So we're looking at getting quotes on them. I think they're gonna run about $600 a piece, the pumps, to replace them and get them back up and running. And Gary?
Yeah, I'll hand it down. Sorry, I was running late.
I know.
Kind of insane.
I figured you'd be here.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question on golf before we get into that? On this total year memberships, month of August membership, that's more what I'm looking at, the zero.
Yeah.
And I know you generally don't, but, what incentives do you give to sign people up later in the year, such as proration, but with a premium? What do you do to get them to sign up later in the year?
I'm not sure, I haven't talked to Phil on it, but, I believe we don't. Which
Is that
we
something
probably,
we need to look at?
yeah, it's something maybe.
I don't want to just strictly prorated, because they're not gonna pay it until they want to.
Yeah,
But if there's some premiums involved,
yeah.
then maybe it's something we need to look at.
Because we've even talked, I know, Mark and I, we had a conversation today about, well, how about, having people that say wanna join, they just moved here, they wanna join and pay this year and next year, what kind of a deal can we do with it?
That's what I'm saying.
And stuff that way, which, the only bad thing is, it's like I told them, that revenue's gonna come into this year, when next year, that's when you're gonna be using it, so it puts you in a deficit.
Well, in an enterprise, see, that will float over,
Yeah,
so that'll float to the next year. So it might benefit you in enterprise to do something like that.
mhm. But, and that's some of the ideas that we've talked with, and I gotta sit down with Bill and say, hey, is this something that we wanna do? And now we can put in as a proration as to early membership for next year, that you
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I yield.
can do it.
Bob, quick question. So, being an enterprise, you're saying like that you can float some things.
Yes.
And we've been good the last couple of years, but being an enterprise, like let's hypothetically say that we wanted to buy fertilizer and we buy a big bulk of it, or at least last year in the fall where we weren't able to previously. Can we buy that fertilizer and it still be invoiced in the 2021 year, but it's utilized in 2022, and that invoice carries over to the next year, even though it was generated in the 2021 year? I'm just kind of going off what you're saying.
I think I understand what you're saying, and I would tell you, have a serious discussion with Yvonne on that matter. I don't want to overstep my bounds there. The main thing that it's going to allow you, say you made a profit of $50,000, just for a rough number, and the board said, well, we're going to use $20,000 of it to fix something over here, so that the board takes $20,000. You still have $30,000 that carries over to the next year as an enterprise. That's the biggest way it helps you. But yes, if with proper accounting, if the accounting department says you can do it, that's between you and the accounting department. But enterprise-wise, the money stays there until appropriated by the board.
So if there's $10,000 in the 2021 year that's not spent, come January 1st of 2022, that $10,000 flops right on over.
Correct.
So you have immediate cash flow.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Gary, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna let Jim read this.
You want me to read it, or you want to?
Yeah, I can't read it.
Okay. You wrote it.
I wrote it.
Okay, August water waste water report. Beckwith water plant produced 20,767.
20 million.
are 20,767,992 gallons of water. Cold Springs remained offline. We billed for 9,297,837 gallons, a difference of 11,510,155, which is an improvement of 53% billed. We are working on next year's budget and the need to improve service for the new homes being built. The lake turnover has created a problem with algae. We have been adding PAC 27 to help remove some of the growth. The wastewater plant saw a flow of 9,920,000 gallons, about 75% of capacity. Jody is back. Oh, Jody is back and has pressed nearly every day. Aiden has received a pigtail to replace the one that was broken on the trailer and should have it replaced soon so we can start hauling solids to the dump. With that, on the PAC 27, is that copper sulfate?
No. It's powdered peroxide, basically.
What's the ingredients?
H2O2 dehydrated.
Because Bob asked me that this
Yeah,
morning.
it's powdered hydrogen peroxide.
So there, that answered that question.
Yeah,
I'm
there's no
still
copper
questioning
sulfate.
until I see that ingredients list. Thank you, though,
Okay.
for that information.
And the UV lights, you asked Greg on them, and I guess I'm gonna have to go to the invoice to see. Do you know if the UV lights are Class A?
Wavelength A or wavelength C?
And
I
he
couldn't
couldn't
tell you
find
off the
it.
top of my head.
And he
You'd have
couldn't
to
find
dig
it
a little
either.
bit.
So I'd have to dig on the invoices to figure out what it said on the invoice. as
The
well.
only reason, Mr. Chairman, may I speak? The only reason I question this is you can somewhat pass a test, but if later on you fail a test and they go to looking and you've got the wrong wavelength in, that would cause it to not necessarily read correctly, then we would be in serious trouble later on. That's why I want to check the wavelength of the UV light.
And I know Dave's on top of that, and he's.
Well, Trojan is pretty dependable, and that's what we use all the time.
Trojan on, okay.
Now-
Well, we can find that out.
Thank you. Back to your list here, we're still 10 million down.
Yeah.
Now, a big question goes, and it's been brought up before, how much of that 10 million is backflush?
0.
Okay, how do you backflush the plant? Because if I'm understanding this document correctly, it says that we billed 9 million.
Correct.
So we know we didn't use any of that 9 million for backflush. Backflush
Correct.
is done with processed water, not with raw water.
Correct.
So we processed water,
We did not
produced,
chlorinate.
we
filtered.
processed 20 million. So some of that 20 million is being used every 20 minutes to backflush the system.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Where are you getting the clean water?
The clean water is filtered and held in a tank.
Where
on
do
the
you
skid.
get it?
On
No,
the
what
skid.
you have is you have a raw water meter that when it comes into the skids.
Correct.
Then each skid breaks down on a daily basis how much water that skid produces on a daily basis.
So we produced
Then it
20
gives
million.
you, so it
Right.
gives you an amount of raw water used and an amount of filtered water.
Okay. Now,
So what he's taking is all the filtered water as getting that number of the 20
Finished.
million.
Finished water.
Finished water. That is not.
that's not what this says. This says we billed for 9 million.
That's
Yeah.
what the number that.
We
you
don't
wanted.
bill what we use to backflush.
No,
That never went down the line.
yeah, but
Correct.
but the 20 million is produced water,
Correct.
not backflush water.
Look, you produced it. So,
No, you
how
didn't.
do I know that you didn't use it for any backflush? Because you produced 20 million, but you only sold 9. And we know for a fact that produced water is used for backflush.
No.
So filtered water and finished water are two different things.
Mr.
Bob.
Chairman, I yield.
So, to explain that to your understanding, the finished water is chlorinated. The water that is used for backwashing is filtered only, it is not finished, and is not introduced into the water stream going to the public. It is introduced now to the golf course pond.
So the 20 million is water that's sent to the tanks.
Correct.
How
Which-
much do they backflush?
I could tell you every day exactly how much. It's approximately 80,000 gallons.
80,000 gallons a day is what you use for backflush?
Approximately, yes.
And that's backflush and CIPs and.
That's just backwash. CIPs, they did not give me a way to, know the number of gallons used in the CIP.
But that is simply filtered, not finished.
Correct.
It's filtered raw water, right?
Filtered raw water.
Thank
From
you.
the lake, filtered,
Okay.
held on the tank, on the skid itself, and then used internally.
All right, thank you.
We also talked with, Mr. Cook, about some pre-treatment. I did not receive that in time. Did you get that?
Yeah, I told him, I got it, it was about 4 o'clock when we got it.
Yeah,
And
it just came in too late to do anything about it today.
I can speak on that, but I'm withholding that for new business.
Okay.
okay,
Okay, I'll read the statement. Statement of conduct and demeanor. In order for the business of the board to be conducted in the most effective and expeditious manner, it is necessary that all persons present maintain a demeanor of civility toward the board, staff, and each other. Conduct that appears threatening or aggressive will not be tolerated. Shouting, speaking out of order, or the use of offensive gestures similarly are not acceptable. Such behavior shall constitute the forfeiture of your right to remain in attendance and may, as a point of order brought to the board's attention by council or any board member, including the chairperson, result in your being asked to leave the meeting by the chairperson or, upon your refusal, being escorted out of the meeting by the proper authority. Do we have any, we don't have any citizens?
No.
I did get correspondence from Maggie. I'll read it during correspondence unless you want it now.
No, let's do it, correspondence.
Okay.
Attorney's report, nothing?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we did have an attorney's report. We went over it in the previous section. That was the letter. So, just make notes that we did receive documentation from her.
Yes, okay. All right, so we move to agenda items.
Okay, agenda items, you have resolution 11-2021, a resolution recognizing and continuing the Golf Course Enterprise Fund of Colorado City Metropolitan District as an enterprise under Article 10, Section 20 of Colorado Constitution.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept resolution number 11-2021, a resolution recognizing and continuing the Golf Course Enterprise Fund of Colorado City Metropolitan District as an enterprise under Article 10, Section 20 of the Colorado Constitution.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and second, any discussion?
Yeah, what is the word continuing? It isn't an enterprise now, is it?
Well, since it has been, it was a enterprise back in 2012.
I just wanted clarification on that word.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak on that?
Are you, anything else, Terry?
No, that's all, thank
Go ahead.
you.
The lawyer stated at the last time that we can continue it even though it was shut down. So she wanted to call it a continuance because we operated as that even though technically it wasn't. Thank you.
Any else? Let's vote. Mr. Cook, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Hotshotler?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Motion passes.
Okay, next, asphalt repair. As discussed, I put it in there. Looking at it, it'll be probably, I'll have to look at it a little bit deeper, but to figure it out, to break it out, I believe it would be about 90-10 water and 10% sewer for the draw.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the bid on the asphalt repair with proper accounting.
I second it.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? All of this damage is our responsibility.
Yes.
If a contractor digs the street up, are we charging them?
No, they're responsible for
And have
repairing
they-
their
Do we
damage.
have that situation?
No, not in any of these situations. These were all water breaks or sewer related.
Okay.
Install is not part of it,
No, install is on the contractor
and no one.
to do it.
All right. Any other discussion? Let's go. Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. Hotshotler?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Mr. Cook?
Yes.
The next agenda item I'd like to table for the next meeting. I tried to catch it before we made a motion on it, but I'd like to give a little bit more into that information before we.
Mr. Chairman, the manager cannot make a motion to table. However, I will make the motion to table with, I think it's something we're not in discussion. I make a motion we table to the next meeting.
Yeah.
I second it.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? How do you vote, Mr. Hotshotler?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus? Yep. Chair votes yes. Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Table.
Okay, next, I do have on the firewall and switches, I have another gentleman that I am talking to get another quote with it. He's supposed to be getting back to me here within a week or two. Hopefully, it's like pulling teeth.
What was that on? I didn't.
On the firewall and switches, because even the one that we have with Jason, I still think it's way out of line, and I want to compare apples with apples, and I don't think we need all the 24 port switches where they want to sell us all the 24 port switches.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak on this subject?
Go ahead.
And as you know, I've often helped look at it, and I've looked at it myself, and actually, a great YouTube video popped up on it yesterday, because I do so much research, they have to show me stuff I don't necessarily want, but it popped up on the 4-port switch that I had talked about with PFSense and OpenSense as the operating software. And to me, if we had one of the smaller devices and we add this software, you know, theoretically we can do it ourselves. But I'll tell you right now, I don't have time to sit down because I don't have the networking map in my brain that it takes to do that. The gentleman that does our networking, I don't know if he even has a networking map. From what I've seen, we have a bunch of wires that go this way and that way. So, before we can network everything, somebody's gonna have to map it. Okay, we've got this computer, we've got this sensor, this sensor goes out over the net, so it's gonna have to have a port. Or we've got a sensor on the tank that has to come in, so that port and that IP has to go in. Yes, we can do it. Hardware wise, we should be well under $500. I don't know what they're quoting you, they may want to give you the hardware, but,
All right.
yeah. But the thing is, I agree with the manager, we should look into this a little deeper, because I think they're using their stick a little heavily.
So, but you're working on that? You
Yeah,
have
we're
somebody-
still, we're working on it. Security cameras, I haven't got them all laid out yet. Well, that's kind of prioritizing what's most important. And lawyer too, I'm working on it, got some calls out again through that. So we're working on all these issues. It's just, like I said, I've had a little bit more time now to do it, so it's helping.
Good.
Mr. Chairman. Forward on that.
What do you want?
Old business. The dual well, did you get a signed contract and when are they expected to start work?
I sent out the contract to him. He said he was scheduling it. I haven't got back from him. I will call him tomorrow and see if he has scheduled this in. I will follow up on that.
Okay. And now continue on to old business.
Go ahead.
We have our public works guy here. Where are we at on jetting for the year? Are we going to meet our requirements?
Yes, I would say we're
We-
still gonna meet the requirements.
We're gonna meet the requirements, but we're still not fully where we should be.
That's not my concern. My concern is, are we going to meet the requirements
Yes,
for total footage, mileage, whatever?
for the year.
Okay. And then we've got the water meters. Last I heard, we're still 30% down on install.
Yeah.
Where are we at on this?
Haven't made any progress in a little while. As you know, we've been shorthanded and pretty busy, but I was actually hoping to get the guys on it next week. Of course, some of that is gonna be a little different than how we were operating before, in that we have to, train the new guy on things and help make things extra safe, so that we're not causing more issues for ourselves.
Thank you.
But we're working on getting back to that.
And the last thing on old business, swing sets. I went and looked at the ones over at Lakeview. They're solid. Looks like there used to be some pea gravel there. I went and looked at the ones in the park. They seem to be solid, or not the park, the campgrounds. They appear to be solid. Used to be some pea gravel there. Where are we at on repairing these?
I haven't had any time to mess with it, and I told you I don't think any of them are safe enough.
Mr. Chairman, this board has instructed that this be done. Now, we did allow for safety issues, so that's why I went and inspected them myself. They are solid in the metal construction, but there's nothing on them. And we did allow in the motion that if you wanted to install pea gravel or something else to meet some other concern, that even though I don't feel like you need it, if they wanted to meet it, it was allowed, the budgeting was allowed for that. I yield.
Josh, when can we do that?
Is that what we wanna do with pea gravel?
Well, to actually either remove the swing sets or get swings on.
It depends just on the schedule. I mean, I'm about ready to lose my only employee right now. I've got high school kids that work a few hours on Friday. My summer guys have already leave, so I am the Parks and Rec department.
Mr. Chairman, removal was contingent on them being rotten.
Right.
They are not.
All right, well,
I think we still need to look at, I still think we need to look at OSHA and some things, and because liability wise, I just,
we've already moved on beyond that. We did actually, we made the.
You moved on beyond that without taking into consideration your Parks and Rec director. I cannot be a responsible Parks and Rec director by putting those back in place unless everything's followed. Can you straighten out a 2-inch piece of pipe because it's bent? There's holes in the bottom of it where it goes in the ground because they're rusted through. I told you guys before any of this happened that they are not safe. They're too tall. You can't even buy swing sets that tall anymore, for that matter.
Josh, I think the position here is that we have to take action. And we as a board have actually instructed to take action. So if they're not safe, we gotta get them out of there.
Okay.
But I reiterate, they better be not safe, because I've inspected them and there is no major damage. I did that before the meeting.
We have to,
And this is my problem. I am willing to go take them down, but is this gonna come back on me if I go do that because the board member's sitting here saying that they're safe? I was also told by previous employees, haven't found any documentation on it, that we were forced years ago to remove the swings or else our insurance company was gonna drop us because of the liability.
and that probably actually needs to be checked on.
That was directed to be checked on a long time ago.
I think we have bigger fish to fry than swings right now.
Right, but once we make a motion, we have to take action.
Allowance was made for safety.
I'm not in favor of certainly not in favor of unsafe swings, certainly not. But we have to deal with it.
And I dealt the last time and I was one of the 3 that voted in favor of putting swings on them, and I regretted it after I looked at some things and talked to some people, and my vote would have switched, but that's here nor there. It's passed. I don't know if we want to revisit it and vote again or not.
I guess my issue, I intend to try to say this in a way that isn't offensive to anyone, but what makes a safe swing? Who determines whether it's safe? We have 2 intelligent, articulate gentlemen who have looked at these things and say the exact opposite. How do we make an intelligent decision about what is or what isn't safe? I mean, Bob says it's safe, so we go ahead. Josh says they're not safe, so we don't.
I mean, you think about things, back in our day, it used to use a merry-go-round, used to use teeter-totters, but we always had a wise guy that got off the teeter-totter when you're up in the air, and so they took those out of those playgrounds anymore. And I don't know if there's somebody in the county or the state that's OSHA or somebody that say, come down and look and say, those things I wouldn't even touch with a 10-foot pole, or yes, go ahead and do this with these restrictions. But I think the liability part, I think, is something I didn't look at when I made my vote, when I approved this situation. But I think we might be opening ourselves up to a can of worms. Just thinking about our years going through, and now they're even taking away some of the slides because they're not safe. I don't know what
Harry?
parents will say.
May I respond to you, Harry?
Yes, you may.
I specifically asked, what is our insurance got to say about this? And it was reported to me, they've got no position on it.
And who told you that?
I can't remember. I asked you, I asked Yvonne, I
Because
asked Josh.
I never asked the insurance on about our swing sets.
I asked for a report. The report I got was, the insurance has no position on
How about in this kind of a situation, if I can pull somebody from, say, Pueblo, city of Pueblo down here that is whatever OSHA qualified to review these swing sets and get him to give us whether it's worth it or not, or if they're safe or not, or what we need to do to make them safe, would that work with this situation? So that way we know that it's somebody from the outside. It is not somebody from here saying we need to do this or that, and that knows the rules. See if I can find somebody within their Parks and Rec department that is OSHA qualified to do the review of it.
I would rather you ask the insurance company, because they got to pay out.
And I'll check
The
with
rest
them
of
too.
it is, if the esteemed colleague said, one says yes, they're safe, one says they're not
Mhm.
safe. We're both intelligent people,
Mhm.
so we need the insurance's point of view,
And I'll
because everybody else is looking at it through whether or not rules cover it.
Is the insurance guy locally?
no, it would be going through our insurance.
Yeah, I mean,
Our municipality, which I'm dealing with the head claim with all of this other stuff, and I could ask her and
Absolutely.
review it with that. That's what I'm saying.
That's why I had asked it before we got into this months ago. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to just drop this every time. It needs to be on the old business until it's settled.
Okay.
But if they're going to refuse a direction, and the only way to cure that is to get an opinion from the insurance company. They're the ones that's gotta pay, whether it's a violation or whether there's an accident.
But I also want to make sure that if the insurance says if they are OSHA
Ask the
accepted,
insurance people and
then I'm
see what
gonna
they say.
ask somebody else to come in and say, now, is this OSHA acceptable?
The insurance
OSHA
company
is not
Or-
part of
Not
it.
OSHA.
Well, or,
That's where
their
everybody's
playground.
getting messed up. It's insurance, not OSHA.
well, I think.
but no, there is regulations on.
There's
playgrounds.
regulations,
That's through
there's
the state.
regulations on schools, and I'll tell you what, we're wasting too much time on this, and I think he has the right
Okay.
idea to go find somebody that gives us an expert opinion, and then we accept it.
So would you do that? Could you
Yes.
do that for the
Yes.
Can I do something before we move on? In my mind, instead of just an idea here, one set is in the village. We're putting playgrounds with swing sets in Applewood, which is walking distance from the village. The other swings in question are 20 feet away from where the new swings are going in. The other ones are over at the lake. If we're gonna put any in, why don't we put in a new set at the lake instead of revamping 3 old ones? If, my only problem with that is, there's no parking on the side of the street, so they would have to park on the lake side and walk across Blanco to get to those. And it's not a fenced off area, so we'd have to look into that as far as the insurance goes too.
Those are good points, Josh, and I think that we probably, the citizen probably would agree with that. The problem that I think that we have is we have these old swing sets that are sitting there looking like we're not doing anything. And we need to do something about it.
I would like one last point. I need to move on from this.
We need to move on.
You're putting in more swing sets. It's not,
I agree.
Yes.
Let's move on. Okay, Jan, let's go.
Okay, new business.
Mr. Chairman, I have new business that the manager does not.
Yeah,
No, go ahead.
go ahead.
First off, I want to talk about pre-treatment at the lake. I have spoke to two other OCRs, is that what you call yourself, or ORC?
Yes.
ORC is what it is, outside of the district. And then I also spoke to our district's water engineer at length. Now, at my very first meeting, I said, we got problems with water. I think everybody agrees we've got problems with water. And I identified years ago that the problem was we have a surface water plant, but we don't have a surface water production facility. So, we were missing, at that time, flocculation sedimentation section of the plant. Speaking with people in the past, we had, at one time, conventional filtration, which is, in theory, a giant sand filter. And then somebody sold the Metro a bill of goods that, hey, we'll just put in membrane filters and that will cure all your problems. Well, as we know, from having to replace these membrane filters quite often now, that membrane can't cut it with the, I don't want to say the water, but what the water is flowing through and to the plant. As it slows down, algae builds up. You have both single cell, which is the coloration, and then you have the string algae. It basically sticks to stuff. Now, in the plant, we don't really have a problem with the string algae because it sticks to stuff before it gets there. It's the single cells that are getting such a mass, cloud, whatever you want to call it, bloom, that they're clogging up the filtration. It's not designed for that. There's two ways to do pre-treatment. And I've talked to different people, they've looked at different plants. Even the engineer said that almost everybody goes with pre-treatment. We're just behind the game on this. We can't reactivate the old conventional because it's gone. So, I asked specifically, okay, I like conventional and sedimentation. And he says, no, you can't do that. I said, okay, tell me why. And he did. He took an hour and a half on the phone and explained the differences, and I'm in a full agreement with him. And the reason I am, and the reason I understand this a little better, is after this last fiasco of everybody being out of water, I decided I'm never going to be out of water again, and I'm building my own water plant. So I can talk to him in the same language. He decided
I think point of order, sir, why don't we, it's new business, we haven't seen any of it, why don't we have it on the agenda with some information, and so we're just not listening to a lecture, that we have something done for the next board meeting.
We can have
it's
Josh.
informative.
I'm not breaking any rules.
Well, no, the rules that I don't want to be lectured to about something I haven't had any information on.
There's nothing you're going to vote on.
Well, but the thing is, Mr. Cook, it's not the Mr. Cook show. It's a board meeting that has an agenda.
Well, let's put it this way, Harry. When did you get off your ass and go look this stuff up? I have spent hours
Sorry, sir, I
to
am
bring
not.
you the information.
Well, yes, you
Okay.
do things,
Both
but...
of you, stop.
Okay, but just listen.
Both of you. Stop.
I want it on the agenda, sir.
Stop. Bob, what we need is information. And we need to have the information, but we need it concise. And I think that you're getting a little bit technical. Harry, this is not a lecture. We're trying to get information. We have a need for information.
Yes,
Both
but
of
it
you.
needs to be
Stop.
something that we can do.
Stop. Both of you. Stop.
My time's precious.
I will condense this.
Condense it.
I will drastically condense it.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
After speaking to him, I decided that he was right and I shouldn't pursue flocculation sedimentation. Sedimentation is where we take and make everything sink and take water off top. what he suggested for our facility, because he's aware of the facility and the footprint required to do something, is what he called a DAF system. Basically, it's a dissolved air flotation system. So we inject air into a pond, flocculate it, and it moves on from there. So that would remove our problems with our filtration system. It would also cost, in his estimate, around $3 million. The reason I brought this up is Mr. Collins had told me that Mr. Ecker is asking for money for this. Mr. Ecker can't ask for money if he doesn't know how much it costs. So according to our engineer, to go with a DAF system, which he claims is 10 times better, and I agree, it would cost around $3 million. He also, in the same conversation, said there are grants to do some of this. And he has the information, and I would say to the board that we need to direct the manager to speak with Mr. Cook on the grant side of this, because this will help us in the long run. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else for new business?
Is that a part of some grants you're looking at right now, sir?
No, but I have had good communication with Mr. Cook. He did send me the information. I was reviewed the information. Mr. Galloway got it too. We will look forward more into that. And I wanted to understand it before I just start writing a grant for something I don't understand.
So that means speak to both of you. I appreciate your efforts in studying this stuff, Bob. I think that's, you get into this, dig into it, and that's something I want to learn about more as well.
Yeah.
And here, I understand you wanting to make things concise, and we
Yes.
need to work both ways.
I mean, I need to
But
see some things.
I appreciate that,
Yeah.
so,
Okay.
both of you, we just need to work together.
One quick thing to Mr. Hochstetler. Mr. Hochstetler, I've asked for a chalkboard or whiteboard be installed so I could help you and others follow along with what I'm trying to show you, so that you have an understanding of what the engineer's saying, not just what Bob's saying.
So, okay.
Mr. Cook will come up and
Correct.
for those that are interested to be there, do a PowerPoint presentation, answer all your questions. He's already volunteered his time again to us. If you guys are interested, we can get something set up.
Yeah, our water's
As we
really,
move forward, I
yeah,
think
our
that's-
water's really the issue, you
that'll be
know.
good.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
Anything else in the new business? Let's move on.
Okay, next you got review from CCAAC.
Yeah, we just have the one trailer that, we had 3 of them submitted to us a couple of weeks ago, or about a month ago, and 2 of them did not meet the specifications. But this one has everything, and the address is
3084 Applewood Drive.
3084 Applewood Drive. It's all staked out. There's 2 trailers right next to it, and they're right next to the sewer plant. You can't miss it. It's a nice little trailer. It's long.
Is it, do they know of the odors that exist at that place?
That's a good question.
Yeah, there was an odor the other day when I was there.
That's not our approval issue.
That's called due diligence.
Yeah,
But that's
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
you may.
And I think Harry said he looked at this.
Yes.
That's not of a big concern. All that I had requested in the past is we have zoning for county and zoning for covenants. Now, I happen to know the zoning on this one,
Right.
and it's R8 on both sides.
what we're gonna do is put on that new form that Randy made up. He's gonna have the things where it has a zoning and the things on it.
But should we put it on this so that we
Right.
can all see it?
Yeah.
Because like I say, sometimes, just for instance, there's a person that wanted to build a unit 5 the property is zoned B, but you can't put a house in a B,
And there's also.
under
one-
covenants.
Also one
Yeah.
that we denied because, you wanted to put a single wide in something that is,
That must be an R8.
Let's move on.
okay.
Thank you.
Yes, in
So my recommendation is to approve this one.
the form that is, that actually is, we're looking at redesigning does have the.
Thank you.
That's the old form. This is the new form that Danny came up with. I'm sorry, I should have given it to you. It's there. And it has within it,
Yeah. It has kind of on
mobile home, whether it's new years,
CCM's,
Pueblo County zoning code.
okay,
CCM.
then side by side, so we should be able to see that they match, right?
Yeah. That's what you're talking about.
Yes,
Yeah.
as long as they match, we're good.
Yep. That's what we work on.
But we found so many homes around town that don't match.
No.
So maybe the question comes up then, is this form acceptable to everybody?
I haven't gone through the whole thing, but
I think we ought to-
something is better than nothing at this point. I
Right.
move that we use it.
I mean,
Let's
a
just-
builder on the committee said, this is what I need, cause he goes to the county all the
Yeah.
time.
Let's start using this form.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if that has to be a board approval.
No, because it's something that, it's an evolving, you
And, we
still
can
have,
change- I mean, if there's something else we see we need, we can change it.
Because of
Change
fees.
in paperwork, there's no need for a vote.
Right.
I would agree to, let's use something like this,
Let's start using it.
because it also appears to have changed some of the verbiage at the top was old verbiage.
Right.
Yep, he did.
So let's-
and,
Okay,
the
let's take-
fees, there was no changes in fees or anything. The only thing he did add was your cat fees on it.
Let's take a vote on this, 3084 Applewood Drive.
Mr. Chairman, do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the, 3048 Applewood Drive.
I will second Harry's motion.
I will amend it to 3084.
3048.
3084. You did dyslexic
That's what it is.
It's 3084?
Is what it says on the agenda.
Yeah. That's the
Which
one
is it?
that,
I got 33960. Oh, no, I see it down there, I'm looking at the wrong.
because that was the problem with it. I was going off with the one that you put it.
Yeah,
30,
48.
oh, no, I mean, the one you gave me was 54. Okay,
I amended to read Lot 5, Unit 20.
yeah.
Okay. Any discussion beyond that? Mr. Stefan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Kraus?
I vote yes on both of them.
Chair votes yes. Mr. Cook?
I vote yes on Lot 5, Unit 20.
All right. There were actions, Harry? There were no actions taken.
No, I think we got one in, he got one in from the sheriff's department, complaint Monday, that's in the file, but,
And, Mr. Cook, if you're gonna try to show up on Thursday, so.
I will do my best. If I could ask that the manager remind me early Thursday so that I don't miss his meeting.
Okay,
A phone call, say, hey, Bob, don't forget.
try to remember myself,
All right.
because I know I have a meeting at 1 o'clock that
Can we put it on Miss Christie's calendar?
did you put 3148?
Hey, Jim, correspondence?
Okay, correspondence, I got a letter here from, it was an email this afternoon, was first and foremost, thank you for serving our dear CCM Board of Directors. First and foremost, thank you for serving. I have been in your seat behind the dais for 8 years, and I know it can be rewarding and contiguous and tedious and mostly unappreciated. The reason I am asking for a moment of your time is that Colorado City needs to make and sell more water. 2021 has been a great year for Lake Beckwith storage. This year has also been a tester for CCMD water production. Parts of Colorado City lost water use this year multiple times. My house on Trelessa lost use for 9 days in July. Not surprisingly, my bill was much lower than expected. In other words, if you could have sold it, I would have bought it. If there was a one-off occurrence, I think the board could shrug it off, but on Sunday afternoon, August 29th, our pressure was low to run the sprinkler system and almost too low to shower. And on Sunday afternoon, September 12th, we were out of water completely. I know there are many parts of the water puzzle. I know tanks are often precariously low. I know 3 mil has been empty for months. I know the in-ground delivery is brutal, and I know that CCMD water delivery obligation is in a precarious condition. I also know that growth is happening, further straining systems. So what will we do? We need an upgrade plan. Maybe some of you know this, but once upon a time, Colorado City received almost $2 million to upgrade Cold Springs water treatment. It was part of the shovel-ready ARRA stimulus from the 2008 economic disaster. The key point was that CCMD received the money for the upgrade because a plan was already in place for consideration. National legislators are considering an economic stimulus package to rejuvenate frail infrastructure in America. Does CCA have a plan to take advantage of possible infrastructure funding? Colorado City is growing. We can make enough water now. What are we doing about it? Thank you, Ray Davis, 7220 Trelessa Drive, Colorado City. And we are addressing a lot of the issues.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, let's adjourn.
Am I forced to adjourn?
We're adjourned.
Okay.
I don't know what you said, but it turned on my phone. Look at that.
What do you have him sign?
When you said it.